Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the afternoon session. It only gets more exciting from here, starting with the Chickpea Outlook. My name is Pete Klaber. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for the USA Dry Pea and Lentil Council, and it is my pleasure to present the first panel today. First of all, though, our thanks to Jova Graneros. It is a family company engaged in the origination, processing, and trading of premium quality chickpeas, the perfect sponsor for today's presentation. And now, I would like to introduce the moderator for this afternoon's Chickpea Outlook. This is Mr. Navneet Singh Chhabra, who has 13 years of experience in the agricultural business and is a director of Shree Sheela International, Indore, India. The company engages in the domestic and international brokerage of Kabuli chickpeas and other white chickpeas. He trades all origins of chickpeas and supplies to markets across the world, but I believe he likes U.S. chickpeas best. Please join me in welcoming our our moderator, Mr. Navneet Singh Chhabra.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a good lunch today, and now, as our session is to start, I would like to invite all our panelists. Please join us. I will introduce one by one. And first, I would like to invite Mr. Coel from Mexico. Tuba Memis from Memisoglu, Turkey. Mr. Max Hinrichs, Hinrichs Trading Company, USA. Bulbula Tule, Soreti International, Ethiopia. Gaston Alonso from Argentina, Mure Foods Product, Argentina. Mr. Sanjiv Dubey, Director, GrainTrend, Australia. Mr. Shekhar Augusto, Alonso, Russia. One of our panelists is not here, Mr. Jayprashad Singhal. Mr. Rajat Sarda from Rajat Agro Commodities, India. Now, I would like to invite our presenter. Everybody knows him. He is Mr. Chandra Shekhar. I would like to invite him on desk. So please join us. In this Kabuli session, in this chickpea session, we have to cover the Desi chickpeas and the Kabuli. And what we decide is we first complete our 20 minutes for Desi after Mr. Chandra Shekhar gives the presentation on the numbers. After that 20 minutes, we decide for Desi, and the rest, whatever time we will get, is for Kabuli type. Okay, I will invite Mr. Chandra Shekhar. Please come here and give us information about it.
Good afternoon, friend. It's such a delight to be back here at this forum year after year. Those of you who heard my keynote presentation last year in Cape Town will remember I talked about 5 global market drivers for commodities. And look at the dramatic change in those 5 global market drivers over the last 12 months. You have an absolutely strong US dollar, which was 1.38 to the euro exactly a year ago, and now it's 1.1 or 1.09. Obviously, that has an implication for commodity prices. Crude oil prices are down by 40 to 45%. Monetary policy in the US particularly is normalized, which simply means that liquidity-driven commodity price boom has now come to an end. Weather outlook over the last year was extraordinarily benign, notwithstanding some scare of El Nino early last year. Hopefully in 2015 also the world should enjoy a normal weather, a benign weather. And although there are incipient signals of an emerging El Nino, we still don't know how it's going to pan out. For 2 years, we've had an absolutely soft agriculture commodity prices, be it corn, be it wheat, be it sugar, be it cotton, and other grains. And therefore, what's in store for 2015 is the question all of us have to ask ourselves, and I'm going to share with you my outlook on the chickpea market. Okay, I want to beware the Ides of March is a statement which obviously all of us have read in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. March is particularly a treacherous month for growers and consumers simply because the growers don't know what to do with the crop that was harvested in the previous year, whether there is a market or not. They are also unsure about weather conditions and about planting. Same is the case with those who are holding inventory. Will there be demand enough? Therefore, like August is a treacherous month from a weather perspective for both growers and consumers, I think March is a treacherous month. But more important, in the last 3 or 4 years, we found in India unseasonal rains and hailstorm impacting various crops, including pulses. And this year has been no different. We've had some really bad weather in the second half of March and even into early April. All that's going to have an impact on pulses production, particularly chickpea production. Okay, these are my numbers. I owe these numbers to a very large number of people. They are far too many that I may not be able to name all of them, but these are ballpark numbers that I have been able to assimilate from various quarters. I'm sure country experts will have their own numbers to give. For instance, I know for sure Australia is probably a number much higher, which I would request Sanjiv to explain. We know about Turkey. Tuba is going to speak a lot more about Turkey. Pakistan, my own expectation for next year, chickpea is about 610,000 tons. But I did speak with a couple of my friends from Pakistan yesterday, and they all said it could be as high as 800,000 tons. And of course, India is a big question, and I'll talk about India in a little bit. But let me mention, I have, under the rubric of chickpea, I've included both chickpea and Kabuli from a production perspective. And we will deal with Kabuli in terms of both production and consumption. The moderator and other panelists will talk about it. But this covers both chickpea and Kabuli. I want to talk about India in particular. The 2015 forecast for other countries is primarily based on normal weather in 2015. That's an assumption all of us have to make. The second one is under the others, I have included several other origins like Russia and Morocco and Argentina, etc. And therefore, I didn't have individual numbers, and therefore, all of them have been clubbed under the others number. India is, of course, the big question. Last year, 2014, according to the government, chickpea production was 9.5 million tons. And usually, between 8 and 10% of the chickpea production in India is Kabuli. Okay? And this year, on the 17th of February, the government of India came up with a number, 8.28 million tons for 2015. But after that, we've had weather events. And we have had incessant rains. We had hailstorms in major producing regions. And that has certainly hurt the crop both quantitatively and qualitatively. What is the estimate of loss? What is the estimate of actual quantitative damage? It is still being ascertained, but my own ballpark number, based on a number of inquiries that I have made, is easily up to 10%. We still don't know what the exact number is going to be because even in the last 4 or 5 days, there has been rain in different parts of northern India. And therefore, one must assume instead of this 8.28 million tons, the chickpea crop could be lower at possibly 7.5 million tons. Whether the crop will fall even below 7.5 million tons is something we may not be able to say with any authority at this point of time. It'll probably take a few more days for assessment of damage. Come on. OK, all right. And therefore, when you look at those numbers, there is a distinct decline in global chickpea production in 2015 vis-a-vis 2014. And the decline could be as much as 1.5 million tons. The decline could be as much as 1.5 million tons, primarily driven by a shortfall or damage to Indian crop. And the lower Indian chickpea crop has already had its impact on prices. And the acreage in India for chickpea was at least 1.6 million tons, 1.6 million hectares lower in 2015, simply because chickpea prices over the previous 2 years were rather low, below what is called a minimum support price. And that has now had an impact on planting, which is called supply response to price. Farmers have moved away from chickpea and planted less. And therefore, we can see the effect of low prices on planting. And in addition, the lower crop size has been exacerbated by further damage by unseasonal rains. And therefore, I'm expecting globally, the chickpea market is going to get tighter and tighter. And particularly, this tightness is going to be driven by India. India's demand for chickpea and chickpea substitute, like yellow pea, is going to increase. But we must also remember, if we assume India's 2015 chickpea harvest at 7.5 million tons after accounting for rain hit damage, we will also have an opening stock of between 700 and 800,000 tons. And therefore, the physical availability could be about 8.2 million tons. And that's something we need to remember. Yet, globally, there's going to be tightness in chickpea supplies, and I guess that's going to have an impact on prices. I'll just very quickly flag these numbers. April 2014 to March 2015, which is the financial year for India, total imports were about 5 million tons, vis-a-vis 3.8 million tons of the previous year. And my own expectation of India's import over the next 6 months, between April and September, is about 2 million tons. Also remember, the forecast for southwest monsoon for 2015, which will start in June and end in September, is a normal one. And therefore, given the current high prices of pulses in India, one can expect again a rebound in planting of pulses for the Kharif season. Kabuli is something I want to leave for the panelists, particularly our moderator, and therefore I won't go at length into that. I've been given 15 minutes time to speak about the global picture and with specific reference to India. I guess I have completed my 15 minutes. I'll halt here, and because we have about 8 or 9 panelists, each one must have enough time to comment about his origin. I'll stop here and hand over the mic to the moderator. Navneet.
We understand that there is lack of production this year in chickpeas in India. Now we understand what's the exact number of Desi and Kabuli in this. First, we are covering Desi. So I would like to ask Mr. Sanjiv, what's the projection and carryover in Australia for this year? How you see the Australian market for coming time? To Mike. Mike.
Hello. Yes, for Australia, it's been actually a very good start, I must say, only because the prices that are prevailing over the past month or so, and the trades that have been done for new crop chickpeas has induced or has awakened the grower to the awareness of wanting to grow more chickpeas. I don't think really there could be a more perfect year for this to happen than this year. We have had, I would say, decent rain. I wouldn't say that very good rain, but I think that the rains have been good enough, especially over the past 10 or 15 days over the Easter weekend. All the chickpea growing areas, we had rains of, in some areas, even 100 mil and above. So it all gives this soil profile. But I must mention over here that there's a specific area in New South Wales, which is the Walgett region, and that remains very dry over the past 3 years. In fact, there's been hardly any chickpeas that have been grown there, so it continues to remain a concern this year as well. So, given the rest, apart from the Volgut region, given a decent enough of soil profile, soil moisture level, and the very good prices of new crop which growers are willing to contract at, there is a huge want to plant more. So, well, Pulse Australia has done an estimation, and they think that it could be about 500,000 hectares, and a lot depends on how the weather goes from now right until November of what the total production is. But we think that maybe 500,000 hectares would be planted, that at an average of say 1.3 tons to the hectare, which I think that the average is more than 1.3, but last year it was 1.3. So even if we take 1.3, the tonnage would be about 650,000 tons, but it surely has a potential of going to 750,000 tons, but it could be between 550 to 600,000 also, because it's a bit too early to talk about what the tonnage is. But sitting here in mid of April, all we know at this stage is that growers are happy with the price, they want to plant. It is the year that they will look for rotation of planting, and wheat prices being down, they'll all be looking towards chickpeas, seeing this as a good year.
Okay. I would like to ask also, what's the total number of production of last year? Can you give us in the numbers? Like this year you are expecting 700,000 tons or 650,000 tons, then what is the last year numbers?
Well, last year the production was about 475,000 tons, okay, out of which we think that we've exported most of it. There may be about 80 to 100,000 tons left in Australia, but I would say that maybe that most of it is already committed to having sold. So I think that there's going to be tightness in the supply over the next coming months, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, right up to harvest. There'll be hardly any supplies to come out from Australia, but so the carry forward stock would virtually be nil in the coming year.
Mr. Sanjiv, also I want to ask that can you give some information about the Pakistan imports, like how is the Pakistan react on this prices, whatever is the current prices, is the Pakistan at buyer at this level? And because Mr. Singhal, which is one of the panelists, is not here, so I would like if you can give some information about the Indian scenario also, if for the demand perspectives.
Well, as Mr. Shekhar pointed out, I think the figures may be close to being right. Normally in Pakistan, you never know until it's actually harvested, and it keeps coming. But if it is 600,000 tons, the production, it is more or less the consumption of Pakistan. So there's no demand as of now. Pakistan is not buying Desi chickpeas, and this is only Desi chickpeas. But there's an outer chance that coming to November, December, January, they will buy. Okay. And well, there's a lot of talk also of Pakistan Desi chickpeas being sent to Iran, and even through I hear through certain Kashmir or coming into India as well a bit.
So as we consider this number, what we are understand as of now is, as Mr. Shekhar is saying, that we are short of approx 2 million metric tons. So if Australia is producing 200,000 tons more, then still we are short. Mr. Shekhar, can you please give some more information about these numbers, like how is India is going to be demand on that, what's the prices outlook and all that? I know that you are not a trade person, but at least I want to.
Thanks. The import numbers that I gave covered all pulses. 5 million tons in 2014-15 covered all pulses, and 3.7 million tons the previous year covered all pulses. My own expectation of the total import of all pulses put together between April and September 2015 is about 2 million tons. It could be a little excess, in excess of 2 million tons, but I think 2 million tons is the minimum that India will import. Of this, how much will be chickpea? How much will be yellow pea is a big question. Traditionally, out of India's import, whatever be the annual volume of import, yellow pea has occupied at least 50% space, 50 to 55% space. And therefore, of this 2 million tons of projected import into India between April and September this year, I will not be surprised to see yellow pea taking up 50% of the volume. And obviously, other pulses will take up the rest. Chickpea could potentially be between 300 and 400,000 tons.
Okay. Mr. Sanjiv, what is approx the prices you have heard about the new crops and all that?
Well, new crop traded yesterday at 660 CNF
660. Okay.
for October, November. But of course, that's on its way up. So as of today, maybe offers are much higher. But it started trading almost about a month and a half back in the mid 550s. And it's come up to this level. And mind you that over the period of time also the Australian dollar is weakened. So what the grower in Australia is getting is a huge number, and they are all very happy with it. So they'll plant as much as they can.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Bulbula Tule, can you please give us information about the Ethiopian Desi? How is the production there? What's the expectation you are from Ethiopia?
Thank you very much. With regard to Ethiopia, first of all, when we speak about the chickpea, 90% of the chickpea grown in Ethiopia is Desi, and Kabuli is a recent phenomena in Ethiopia for the last 4 or 5 years, and of course, it's rapidly expanding, and it covers 10 to 12% of the production in Ethiopia. If I give you, because in the presentation Ethiopia was not included, and from the data I see, Ethiopia is producing more than Mexico, Canada, and the USA, compared to what I have just observed. To give you an example, by the year 2011-12, Ethiopia produces about 400,000 tons, covering about 231,000 hectares. In the following year, which is 2012-13, because Ethiopian budget, the Ethiopian crop year, we normally taking from the budget year from July to June, and the crop year is also similar to that one. So the following year, on 2012-13, from about 132,720 hectares, we harvested about 225,000 metric ton, and last year of 2013-14, out of 122,248,000 of hectares, Ethiopia harvested about 409,000 metric ton of chickpea. And the forecast of 2014-15, which is subject to some review because of forecast is something and actual is different, as you know, we expect about 423,000 metric tons. If you go to the export data shows for the 2012, for the 2011-12 is about 60,000 tons, and the following is about 73,950, and last year about 46,000, and last 8 months from July to date, we exported about 23,400. If I give you the price trend, the average price trend for the 2012-13 is about 605, for the last year about 535, and the current, the last 6 months average shows about 467, which is very cheap. I'm sure our brothers Pakistani enjoyed this very good price, which is very, very cheap, I assume. And as I said, when I see the average, even the average production of the last 3 years, we produce greater than Mexico, Canada, and the USA from the data just I observed. This is overall what looks like Ethiopia chickpea. As I said, 10 to 12% is covered by Kabuli, and the rest is the major one is historically Desi chickpea. And because of the situation we are hearing India, and the market is responds accordingly, and the price is extremely volatile now. This is what I assume.
Okay.
And,
so did the Indian prices makes your farmers to grow more and more Desi chickpeas because there is a shortage of Desi chickpeas in India. So it will farmers make their mind to grow more and more Desi chickpeas, or
yeah, Desi chickpea, Kabuli chickpea is basically traded in the main is going to Sudan through border. So Kabuli is not a problem. First of all, production is, as told you, is 10 to 12%, but the most important is the Desi one, yes.
Okay. Okay. Now I would like to come to our next topic, which is for the Kabuli type. And I will start with Mr. Gaston, who is from the Argentina, and he will please tell us what's going in Argentina, because I see from last 2013, it is always 45,000 metric ton of the productions. So
Yes.
how you are expecting this year in the month of December? I think December is your harvesting.
Correct.
What's,
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I would like to make just a brief history. Kabuli chickpeas in Argentina are relatively new. We have started in 1995 with a very small production of approximately 5,000 tons, which was mainly consumed locally. And from 2005 onwards, it started to increase till we reach the record crop of 2011, that is November 2011, of about 100,000 tons. Yes. At that time, prices were high, have increased a lot due to bad weather conditions in India and Mexico. And also at the same time, we have some issues in Argentina. The main reason why it increased was because it was a very good alternative for a winter crop, because we have some government restrictions, mainly for wheat, and because it was also a good alternative for replenishing nitrogen crop and to seed late corn and soya. But that year we have some weather issues, as I mentioned, so it proved that not all areas of Argentina are suitable for chickpeas. So the traditional areas are the north of Cordoba, which has a stable production of about 10,000 tons depending on the year, and we irrigate it. And then it's Salta province and some part of Tucumán. And well, on the following years, in 2012, 2013, the production decreased till we reached our last crop of November 2014, which was about 40,000 tons, mainly consisting of 25% of 9 millimeters, 50% of 8 millimeters, 20 of 7, and the balance 5 of split chickpeas. The export from October 2013 till November 2013 were about 47,000 tons. We export mainly the 9 millimeters to Brazil, Jordania, Colombia, Chile. The 8 millimeters mainly to Europe, Italy, Portugal, Spain, also Israel. And then 7 millimeters, India mainly. And for the new crop, which will be planted in May, we are expecting a stable production of about 50,000 hectares. Of course, the yields will depend on the weather. The last yields we have on previous crop was between 1,200 to 1,300 kilos per hectare. So we are, as I say, we were expecting a stable crops. Also, we have some issues at the end of the year. We are changing our government. We'll have to see what happens with we have export duties on soya, so we'll have to see what will the new government will do, if they will take them or not. But anyway, what we see is that the prices we have now are like rock bottom prices. I don't think we can get further down because although we have some annual devaluation of about 20%, our inflation is still very high. Last year we have 35% inflation, so that does not allow us to have any to sell at lower prices. No, otherwise the farmers, which in Argentina have a big capacity, they have a big land, they will probably switch to other crops. So there's a limitation there.
Okay. So this year, again, you have 40,000-50,000 tons you are expecting.
That's what we expect, but all, of course, will depend on weather conditions. In the north, we always need moisture to plant, so every year can be different. So, but presuming a normal year, yes, that's
I heard that there is some shortage of seeds also, like some farmers did not have the possibility for seeding, if they wish to sow the Kabuli chickpeas, they did not have the sufficient amount of seeds. This is also an issue in Argentina?
No, that depends on the market. Of course, if the market is high, it will be hard to get seeds, but I would also like to add that over the last years, we have farmers have been improving the quality. We have switched, not all of the farmers, but many have switched to a variety called Norteño, which is much higher quality. They give us bigger sizes. So what we have is a lot of potential. Our natural resources are very good. We have exporters with a lot of experience on pulses. We have a chamber of pulses in Argentina, which, by the way, this year is having the 40th anniversary. So we think there is a potential to increase chickpeas in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Max, how about the US and Canada?
Well, is this one working? Okay. When we start talking about the U.S., we grow in several different states. Washington and Idaho are the larger states. Then we kind of go into Montana, California, North Dakota, South Dakota, and a little bit in Oregon. So it's kind of a diverse range. The harvest is all similar, though. We usually harvest in September, finish up somewhere in October. In 2014, we had about 215,000 acres planted, and we were off to a pretty good start. We had a drier summer than normal. We had a earlier harvest than normal. We were harvesting in some of the areas, 3 weeks early. As a result, we had a lower yield on the crop overall. We were down from an average, kind of a 5-year, 6-year average, about 1,600 pounds to the acre, down to under 1,300. So we didn't have the production last year that we expected, but the result was an excellent quality crop. We had good size, we had good color, we had no rain, so it was one of our better crops in a lot of years. Going into 2015, we start looking at that crop. It's going to be similar. We're going to be down, to 190,000 acres, more or less, with a production we're expecting of about 135,000 metric ton. And so far, weather looks good. We haven't started planting yet. In some of the early regions, we've got a little bit in the ground, but we'll have it finished, planted within the next 30 days for sure, depending on weather. We had a drier winter than the last 5 or 6, and so we need the rains. We're getting a few right now. We're on the start of a good crop. We'll just have to see what happens in June. We're seeing a big increase in our domestic disappearance. With the rise of hummus as a snack in the U.S., a lot of the production is going there where we can consume a lot of this tonnage that we have coming off nowadays. The exports to Europe are a big deal for us as well, so I think in the U.S. we're off to a good start. Should have a similar crop to last year, 135,000 tons, and we're off to the races. In Canada, most of it's grown in Alberta and Saskatchewan. And I'm not an expert on Canada, but I can, give you the information, that I've kind of received through the trade, talking to different people. And it appears, this year there may be a switch from more of the B90 type chickpeas into larger chickpeas, a little bit kind of like Argentina was talking. In 2014, Canada, they had 180,000 acres and 123,000 tons worth of production. This year, the acreage is predicted to be down a little bit. They have other alternatives, the price of lentils. We're seeing the same thing in the U.S. So the estimate for 2015 is around 140,000 acres with 112,000 tons, all different sizes between B90s, 8 mm, 9 mm, and any other specialties that they may grow.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Max. And Mr. Sam, what would you like about Russia?
Yeah, I guess everybody is curious to know what's Russia going to have in the new crop.
Especially Indians, we are afraid of day by day with Russia.
You can make sure it's not going to be 2 million to cover all the shortage. Yeah? Yes, I would like to start with some numbers, what Russia is doing. So far, Russia is let's say, one of the major exporters of small caliber of Kabulis. Became the main exporter in the last 3-4 years, actually. And let's say for 2013, we had an export figure around 285,000 tons. The majority, of course, looks like going to Turkey, but most of it was transshipped to either India or Iraqi market. For this crop, 2014, so far, the figure is around 220,000 by the end of March, maybe about a bit more. And I think we are going to catch more or less the same figure like last year, around 285 to 295,000 tons. This gives us remaining around 70 to 80,000 tons more, together with the local disappearance and the seed usage. The problem in Russia, as most of you know, is the dirty chickpeas, which is usually caused by the rain which we receive close to the harvest time. Now, everybody will say, of course, Russia is going to crop a lot of chickpeas, plant a lot of chickpeas this year. But the case is that we have some specialty crops which are coming in the last couple of years and becoming more profitable, like camelina seeds, lean seeds, being preferred to the chickpeas in the southern regions as they grow earlier. That's why we may not see a huge increase in the chickpeas acreage for this year. I believe we may have around a limited increase around 5 to 10%. Russia in general is planting around 200 to 220,000 hectares, which is with an average yield of 1.6 to 1.8 tons per hectare, giving us around 360 to 400,000 tons. For 2015, the most important things going to be, first, the volatile currency in Russia. The second, still, I think the weather is a big phenomenon for Russia, because in the last 2-3 crops, we had the similar phenomenon. In June, July, we are having very dry weather, which is followed by a heavy rain in August, which is our main harvest time, and causing this really lower grade quality, and which is not really preferred by the final buyers. So far, I believe the prices has climbed up very good. I mean, in the last 2-3 weeks, and I think for 2015, if the demand's going to be like this, and it looks like, it's not going to be a surprise to see the Russian chickpeas traded above 600 levels for the new crop.
At these prices, don't you think that the farmers are more interested to sow the chickpeas other than your specialty crops, what you are all saying that the farmers are?
Come again, please?
Like the prices, whatever is the prices now, like we are seeing from the last 1 or 2 months, it's 500 CNF or CIF basis, now 550. So don't it makes the farmer more attractive to sow the chickpeas crop, sowing of the chickpeas
Yes,
crop?
correct, but on the specialty crops you have something. There are some common region in the southern Russia which, for the growing of sun seeds. And the sun seed, unlikely to these specialty crops like linseed, safflower seed, camelina, cannot be grown in every other year like for rotation crop, because you have to wait 3 years to plant it again. But unlikely these specialty crops can be planted every other year, and with nice oil percentage, they may give better yields to the farmers. But still, I mean, whatever improve we have, if it is not 5 to 10%, we are going to have 20%, but it's not again going to be a big factor to change the supply picture from the Russian point of view, I guess.
So in conclusion, what is the total number of production this year in 2015?
Well, for 2014, my number is around 360 to 380,000 tons. This year we can be likely around 400,000 tons maybe, but 400, 420 is also possible. The most important thing, the dirty damage, the mud damage, because some farmers doesn't prefer even to take the chickpeas out of the field, which is not possible because of the mud in the fields. So it will be a big factor. If you don't have it, of course, it's not going to be a surprise to see 420,000 tons in the market.
Okay, thank you. And where is the main market for Russian as of now? Like,
well, as of now, we have our 2 main markets, let's say. One is India, let's say Indian subcontinent, and the other is the Middle Eastern market. Of course, there is some niche market which is done by the processors in Turkey and some other countries, that in Russia we don't have so many final producers of chickpeas, which is going to Europe as well, like really premium quality. These are the main markets that we work, but I can tell you the big majority of the product is going to India and Middle East.
I heard that Russia is also developing a new quality, like Kabuli type chickpeas. Is it correct? Like it's whatever we are getting right now, it's different. But
you mean bigger size,
yeah,
bigger caliber?
Yeah.
Well, indeed, in the Russian chickpeas we have up to sometimes 10%, maybe 8 mm. Of course, some of the farmers, for sure, trying to get bigger millimeters, but because of the cold temperatures, I mean, in the sowing time, like in the northern part of Russia, it is still, we have very cool temperatures. So unlikely to the big caliber growing countries like Turkey with Argentina, or sorry, Mexico or India, it's, I don't know. I don't think that is going to be a big portion of it. So we will keep growing this B90 type, let's say, as Canadians say. It will be the majority, I guess.
Thank you. Now, the main and important topic is Kabuli type. Mr. Joel, please give some information about the Mexican production this year and how you are seeing the next this year about the prices and all that. What's the carryover in the Mexico? There are many questions, especially for the Kabuli type. The Tuba is sitting behind, near to you. Is the main we are going.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Valenzuela. I'm representing Mexico. I'm going to try to explain the situation of Mexican chickpeas. The numbers that I'm giving today will be my point of view. It's not government numbers. I'm coming from Culiacan, Sinaloa. In Mexico, we have the production area is in the northwest states of Sinaloa and Sonora and Baja California. Those are the main regions for the production. The growing time, the seeding time is in fall from October to December. And the harvest is since second half February and March. So we are finishing the harvest in Sinaloa. And in the next days, in the next 2 weeks, the harvest will start in Sonora, in the northwest Sonora. The production for this year, my number will be less than 95,000 tons of Blanco Sinaloa and for good quality for exportations. Last year, the 2014, the shipments were less than 150,000 tons. But 2014, we started with a carryover from that 2013. But this new season, we are clean. We don't have any carryover. None of the exporters have carryover from last year. So the position of Mexico will be firm. We can't compete with Indian prices because in this part of Mexico, the farmers are more focusing or obligated to plant corn, white corn. They get more income for seeding corn than chickpeas. So in Mexico, we need to pay good prices to the farmers so they keep growing chickpeas year by year. The quality is very good. Everybody knows the quality in Mexico, the Blanco Sinaloa type. We have some rains during the last 2 weeks of the Sinaloa harvest, but there's nothing to worry. It was a small rain. The quality is under control. Quality is good. In the Sonora, what I hear on Sonora is that the quality will be good too. It's going to be less, but good quality. No, there's nothing to worry on the quality. The other point, the prices in Mexico will depend, of course, on the Indian situation. I'm hearing day by day on the exchange of emails and messages that India is having a very big crop, 500, 600,000 tons. Of course, all that is not big size. It's not Kabuli. I think this is like different types of chickpeas. But we just finished the harvest. We are in the harvest, finishing the harvest time. We have 1 year to trade, to sell these inventories. The main destinations for Mexican is Turkey, Algeria, and Middle East, Spain, Italy, France, some countries of the European Union. Some countries that they need good quality. So the markets that really needs to get good quality, I think they need to focus, they need to look for Mexico. And right now we're having the two crops coming at the same time, Mexican and Indian, Kabuli or Mexican type coming at the same months. Some companies are buying from India because of the price. some companies will not buy from India because they need the premium quality, so they will focus on buying from Mexico. So this is pretty much the situation right now.
Mr. Joel, in very fast, I just want to know can you divide in Sinaloa, Sonora, and Baja California? Like, what's the total number of production in different Sinaloa, Sonora, and Baja California?
Okay, in Sinaloa, I think my number will be 80,000 tons of Blanco Sinaloa. And between Baja and Sonora, another 20 or 15. But from this number, you have to keep for seeding for next year and for the local consumption, domestic market. So good size, good quality for exportation. My number is around 90,000 tons.
Okay, so you can say conclusion like that. Like last year, we have around 50 to 60,000 less in Mexico for the Kabuli type. We can conclude like this, isn't it?
No, last year we have the total export quantity was around 150,000.
Okay.
But we started the 2014 with a carryover of at least 35 or 40,000 tons. Okay. But this year it's clean. We don't have any inventory from last year.
Thank you. But did you have any sales from the new crop in Turkey or Algeria, which are the main markets?
No. The demand is very slow right now. Turkey, when I talk to the Turkish importers, main importers in Mersin, they mentioned that there's a lot of inventory from Mexico and from India right in the port in Mersin. So I think this will take some time to reduce the inventories in the destinations in Mersin. Also, the situation in Turkey depends very much on Iraq. So there's right now some kind of problems, or the economy is not good in Iraq. So it's like a chain. Turkey buying from Mexico and reselling to Iraq and other neighborhood countries, but all this is like very slow right now.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rajat, please give information about India.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're not sleepy after lunch, or I'm going to make you sleepy with some numbers. The crop, pretty much same scenario as Mexico. We started off this year with very low inventories, probably less than 20,000 tons left over from the last year's crop. The sowing was up by 25%. The acreage increased in India for the Kabuli chickpeas. Similarly, the yields were also increased, and we were expecting that we'll at least harvest 500,000 tons of Kabuli chickpeas in India, maybe even more. The quality, far better than last year. Leave apart a few regions which received rainfalls during the harvest, but those represent only small percentage of the growing area. So we'll have to discount those areas which have poor quality and probably select our purchases from the regions which are offering better quality cargo. Yeah, the demand, export demand is relatively very slow and sluggish because only the major buyers like Algeria and Turkey are very, very slow, especially Turkey. Haven't seen much of business coming from Turkey to India. Algeria, though, has been slowly and steadily buying some quantities, but again, not much as compared to past 3-4 years. As far as the arrivals are concerned, the arrivals are very good as of now. Till now, 125,000 metric tons of product has already arrived into the market and changed hands from farmers to stockists to traders to processors, and maybe even exported out of India. If I would say, I were to give you the price indications for the coming days, I would say price this year, we have started on a very stable and steady note, unlike 2014, 2013, where in February and March and April were relatively very speculative months for Indian chickpeas. You would have seen numbers as high as $1,200 or $1,300 per metric ton. This year we are relatively low, hovering between $900 and $1,000 or maybe even 1,050 CNF to some destinations. As far as my outlook on the prices is concerned, I believe the prices, there is very less room for prices in chickpeas to go down from these levels, because especially for the lower calibers, because Desi chickpeas are in shortage in production in India, because of which the lower caliber, especially 7 and 8, and to some extent 9, the Desi chickpeas are putting a lot of pressure on the smaller caliber chickpeas, because the 7 and 8 Kabulis are already selling at a discount as compared to the Desi chickpeas in India. So traders and farmers are pretty much insured about those prices, that they can any day send these chickpeas for crushing to create the chickpeas flour. So they're not worried about that, so they're not in a hurry to sell those products. As far as large caliber is concerned, we have to rely on exports, because domestic market accounts for less percentage of large calibers. For large calibers, we'll have to look forward to various destinations where we have been exporting, for example, Turkey, Algeria, Middle East, Europe, and Indian subcontinent. The question that everybody was asking me this year was, do you think you have a large crop this year and the prices are expected to go down, and should we wait, should we buy, or do you think you'll be able to offer cheaper next year? I don't think that the prices will go down, because in last 1.5 months, what we have seen is whenever the prices in Indian markets, they drop below a certain level, the arrivals suddenly decrease, and the farmers are very reluctant to sell below a certain level in Indian market, because of which I don't see the markets will go below a threshold level. Farmers may think of holding on to the product and expect that the markets fare better in the coming days, and then he'll bring the product into the market when he gets a better price for the product. Again, now, to sum up, the crop size in India is good, quality, much better than last year. Prices, I believe they're good prices, because if you compare it with last 3 or 4 years, we're probably at the lowest or in the lowest range of the prices that we've been offering in the last 3 or 4 years. Although export demand is low, but I'm pretty hopeful that with the Ramadan coming up early this year, starting in somewhere in the mid-June, I expect the demands to pick up within the coming months, especially if not farther destinations. I expect the Indian subcontinent like Pakistan and Sri Lanka, which primarily buy the majority of Indian production, will come to buy from India, and this will probably pose a better scenario for the chickpeas growers in India. Thank you, Navneet.
Thank you. I do agree with Mr. Rajat that this year we have no demands, especially in the bigger calibers. We see last month as a month of March, there is no shipment from India to Turkey. It's really a big thing for the bigger caliber. Now, Tuba, please give information, like, because Rajat and Goel both are looking for when the turkey is in the market.
Okay, hello everyone. First of all, I want to give some information about Turkish chickpeas market. Turkey is one of the biggest Kabuli chickpeas export and producer countries in the world, like India, Australia, and Russia, Mexico. Turkish chickpeas is all Kabuli type chickpeas. We have Spaniola and Velvety type chickpeas. Velvety type chickpeas is very small, it's only 3%. We have our chickpea sizes is mostly 8 million, which is 60% of our production. 80% of our Turkish chickpeas is harvesting in Middle Anatolia, and the rest is from the South East Anatolia. Seeding time in Turkey is starting from the April to 15 May, and harvesting is also starting from the end of July to August. Our total chickpeas production is last year was roughly around 200,000 metric tons. In last 6-7 years, our production is dramatically decreased from 500,000 metric tons to 200,000 metric tons. The reason is for this decrease is the farmers they are not willing to plant chickpeas because they are getting more yield from the wheat and corn, other products. And other reason is that Turkish companies, they are not buying Turkish chickpeas because Turkish chickpeas prices is higher right now. They are preferring to buy from Argentine, Canadian, and Indian, Mexican chickpeas. So this affects demand of our Turkish chickpeas. We were exporting 5 years ago Turkish chickpeas around 90,000 metric tons, but last year we only export Turkish chickpeas 18,000 metric tons. It seems that Turkish chickpeas export number decreased so much, but we are mostly re-exporting other origin chickpeas. Our export countries are mainly Iraq, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and other Middle East countries, and also European countries. Last year, Turkey bought around 100,000 metric tons chickpeas from Russia, which is small-sized chickpeas, 20,000 metric tons chickpeas from Mexico, and 14,000 metric tons chickpeas from India, which are big-sized chickpeas, and roughly 10,000 metric tons chickpeas from USA, Canada, and Argentina, which are medium-sized chickpeas. Total number of our chickpeas that we bought from outside is around 150,000 metric tons last year. 42,000 metric tons of these chickpeas we were used in our domestic market, which are big-sized chickpeas mostly. Russian chickpeas are mostly re-exporting to Iraq and Syria, which are small-sized chickpeas. Through UN tenders, Turkish companies only sent 30,000 metric tons chickpeas to Iraq and Syria last year. This year also we are expecting same number. 5 years ago, we were only buying around 25,000 metric tons chickpeas from outside, but today we are buying around 150,000 metric tons chickpeas. But most of these chickpeas are re-exporting to other countries. So we can say that since our production decreased so much, but chickpeas trade in Turkey increased too much last 5 years. For new crop, I can give you estimation for the productions. It can be around 200,000 metric tons this year again, or would be less this year because farmers, they are not willing to plant chickpeas. They are thinking that chickpeas prices are too cheap this year. And we saw that farmers bought seeds very less this year if we compare with the last year. And this year, weather condition is not going very well. This is my idea because it is raining too much this year. If these rains continue till the harvesting time, this can be affect our yield also and quality of our chickpeas. For indication for our import this year, we may buy again 25 or 30,000 metric tons chickpeas from India or Mexico, but Indian and Mexican chickpeas prices has to be competitive this year because our US dollar rate is too high this year. So our cost will be much more higher this year. For re-export, we may buy again 100,000 metric tons chickpeas from Russia. As long as chickpeas prices in Russia cheap this year, we may buy more chickpeas because UN tenders, they prefer cheap products. For the indication, Turkish chickpeas prices for new crop, 7 million can be 600 and 650 US dollar. 8 million can be 800 or 850 levels. 910 would be 1250 US dollar levels.
Okay. Tuba, you said very good thing about the currency. Like last year in the Seychelles, at the same time in the main South Africa, the currency of Turkey is around 2.14 Turkish lira and today there is 2.66. It is the main reason that there is no demand, or why there is no demand from the market?
It's not main reason actually. Market is slow because Iraq is not buying right now, and there is much more stocks in the, as you said, in Mersin right now. Hope it will open for the future.
Okay, so you mean the currency is not so much big issue for like 25% of the Turkish lira is devalued in the last 1 year. So as per my view, it's the main issue for this lack of demand, especially. Iraq is also an issue that there is no demand from Iraq, but we are always having demands in the Iraq from in the month of winter, in the October, November, at the time of Muharram and all that. Okay. What price levels you are expecting the Turkish market can pay for their local, if we not consider Iraq, as it, for the local market, for Turkish market, is the right price level? Whatever is India is offering, $950 to $970?
Yes, 900 level is okay, I think, right now.
$900?
950 maybe. Not
Okay.
higher than this level.
Okay. I would like to add the point that because India and Mexican, the main market is Turkey and Algeria. So Algerian currency is also devalued by 25% from last year. So this is also an issue that whatever price India is offering into Algeria, the local market is less than that price. So this is a major concern that we did not have huge demands from Algeria also. So in the last 2 months, like if you compare Feb and March of 2014 and Feb and March of 2015, we have almost 50 to 60% less exports from India to these two destinations. Okay. So now I would like some questions. If you have some questions, or I would like to invite some questions. Can you be fast for questions? Any questions? No questions?
Mr. Jairaj.
Mr. Jairaj. Please, Mike.
Hello? Yeah. Mr. Chandrasekhar, you made a statement in your presentation. You said that with a carryover of 800,000 tons of chickpeas, you expect the production this year to be 8.2 million tons. But then you are basing this on the government statistics, which normally always tend to differ from the trade estimates, which are always lower. And sometimes they tend to differ as much as 10%. So what should we be guided by? I mean, are we to be guided by what the government says or what the trade says?
If you looked at the government numbers for 2013 and 2014, 2012 and 13 and 14, and if you relate those numbers with the prices at which chickpea traded, and you also relate the prices with the trade estimate, you will know who is nearer to the correct production number. Chickpea prices for the last, the whole of 2013 and the whole of 2014 were selling below the minimum support price, simply because production was very high. We had record production for 3 years in a row. And therefore, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The market prices reflect the demand and supply position. Therefore, this year, my sense is, yes, the production number given by the Government of India, 8.3 million tons as of mid-February, is a number which now needs to be discounted simply because we had rains after the estimates were released. In the second half of February and early March, we have had rains, even continuing until now. There is crop damage, and I expect the damage to the extent of 10%. And therefore, actual production should be around 7.5 million tons. You also have to take the carry forward. And remember, there is both qualitative damage and quantitative damage. Quantity damage cannot be retrieved, but when there is damage to quality, that will actually come into the market. And there is a price at which that substandard quality or poor quality will sell. And when you have more of substandard quality selling at lower prices, it can potentially pull down the price of even better quality product. That's what happens in the Indian market.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Can we follow the tradition? Mr. Rajat, what's your price expectation for India?
I believe the price gonna remain stable or maybe go a little up. I don't see much movements in the market. The market's looks fairly and evenly balanced, both in the favor of buyer as well as seller. I anticipate the prices to remain in the region from $900 to $1,000. Probably 1,000 would be a higher number for me, and 900 would be a too lower number. If I were to sum up 925 to 975 FOB levels, should be a good buying area.
Mr. Coyle, what you are expecting with the fast?
Because of the prices we pay to Mexican farmers, we are obligated to sell at least at $1,200 CNF main
Tuba.
ports.
What number you are the buyer?
It's hard to say this, a number because it is according to the market demand and.
What?
Sorry. No, but it has to be cheap because market is slow right now.
Mr. Max, what you have from the USA?
Yes, between the 8s, 9s, and 10s, we're going to be ranging anywhere from 900 a metric ton on the bottom end, kind of CNF med ports to 1150.
Mr. Bulbula, how about the
I
Desi prices?
I think the price has already jumped. Last week it was around 520, 30. Now, as of today, is about 560. Tomorrow morning it might be 600.
Thank you.
And this is for Desi chickpea, and Kabuli will be more.
Okay, thank you.
$50, $75 difference.
Thank you. Mr.
Thank
Sanjiv, how about the Desi prices?
Yeah, Desi prices seem bullish, so on the upside. From
Numbers. I want to hear the numbers.
Could be 700, 750.
Well, for Argentina, the harvest has been, we have new crops, so we expect prices probably in the future getting firmer. We don't see prices going down. Today, average price is for 7, 8, and 9. It's 600, 720, and between 900 to 950. So we don't see prices going down. All the contrary, we think that in the future we'll get firmer.
Mr. Sam, what about the Russian prices?
I think considering the very sharp increase in the last 3 weeks, which is around $30 to $40, and the very limited supplies just before the Russian crop comes, I believe we will see more than $600 levels for the Russian.
Mr. Shekhar, in the last.
Yeah, Navneet, thanks. If you recall, this time last year, Indian chana prices in the local market were about equivalent of $400. And in the last 3 or 4 months, prices have gone up. They went to 600, and currently they're around $630, $640 a ton, equivalent of the local prices. Obviously, this reflects the shortage in the market, lower acreage and lower crop. Is there an upside to this from 640 levels? I guess possibly up to 10% upside is available as of today. But remember, when prices touch $700 or they exceed 42,000 rupees a ton in Indian rupees, I will not be surprised if the government starts to intervene in the market and starts to bring certain curbs, administrative curbs on prices. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you all of you for
Hello.
listening us. Thank
Hello.
you.
One more question. About European market. I think everybody discuss about exporting countries other than Europe and importing countries, but I think nobody said anything about European market. So probably probably you are the person, you're doing most of the export to European market. Can you give us some idea what product they are buying and at what level and which origin?
I thought our time was up. No, it's a good question. I mean, I think, it's coming from Mexico, it's coming from the US, it's coming from Canada, all price ranges. On the 8 sizes, we're seeing a lot lower numbers out of Canada. On the 9 sizes, the US is hanging right in there. 10s and 11s, Mexico pretty much is handling most of that. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you all for listening us. Thank you.
First of all, our thanks to Jova Graneros for their sponsorship of this review of chickpeas. Thanks to my new friend, Mr. Chhabra, for being the moderator. Thanks to my old friend, Mr. Chandra Shekhar, for being the presenter.